Hi there, I'm Jessica Parker. I'm the founder of Dissertation by Design, and I'm here today to talk to you about theoretical frameworks and how to think about your theoretical framework, its role in your research, and how to present your theoretical framework in your thesis, your dissertation, or even a research article. First, I'd like to just address a question that I get quite often is like, do I need a theoretical framework? Do I need a theoretical framework and a conceptual framework? And the answer is always, it kind of depends. But for the most part, if you're conducting empirical research, which means you have a question, you're going to go collect data to answer it, then you likely need a theoretical framework. I find that when scholars are lost in the literature, they're having a hard time developing and designing their study. It's usually because they either don't have a theoretical framework or the one they've chosen is not appropriate, or even maybe they have too many and they're adding complexity that isn't necessary. On the other hand, a conceptual framework is really unique to your study. It brings together all of the concepts or variables within your study, and it visually explains the relationships between those concepts and variables. The simplest way to think about that is if you have a hypothesis and you think that an independent variable is going to have an effect on a dependent variable, you can visually represent that in a concept map, and that could serve as the conceptual framework. And ultimately, you select a theory that explains why that independent variable will lead to a certain effect on the dependent variable. Let's just back up for a moment. When you think about selecting a theory, ultimately, there could be multiple theories that align with your research, and that could help explain your assumptions or your hypotheses if you're doing a quant study. Ultimately, you just need to select one or two that you understand. Usually, when you find the right theory, everything just kind of clicks and comes together, and that's how you know. Otherwise, it may feel like you're forcing it, and it doesn't necessarily in that case mean that the theory isn't appropriate, but it needs to make sense to you. That's kind of the whole point. It gives you this foundation and this lens for designing your study. And then it also helps you interpret your data and explain your findings to the reader. So when you think about selecting a framework, anytime you come across a theoretical framework, there's always several key tenets or conceptual definitions that you're going to want to understand and explain to your reader. I like to use the example of the technology acceptance model because it's been around for a long time. There's multiple iterations of it, and it's been applied in various contexts. The most recent iteration of the technology acceptance model includes a construct around AI anxiety, that's artificial intelligence anxiety. So if I was using that theoretical framework for my current research, I don't need to go back in time and describe every adaptation of that model. Instead, I would tell my reader about how it originated, its original intention by the original author. So you do need to go back and find some seminal research. But then I'm going to mainly just focus on the current framework that aligns with my research. So that iteration of the technology acceptance model that contains the construct of AI and anxiety, if that's what I'm interested in researching. And then if you have hypotheses, you may go and take that extra step and develop a visual map or a conceptual framework that really brings together the concepts specific to your research and your study population. And that's really unique to you. You may find an existing conceptual framework that you can adapt, and that's perfectly fine too. But at minimum, you really do want to select an appropriate theoretical framework. Every theoretical framework has underlying assumptions. A good starting point for you might be documenting your assumptions about your research, especially if you're not ready to develop hypotheses. But even if you're doing a qualitative study, you still have some inherent assumptions. So this is a good opportunity to kind of reflect and really just think about what those assumptions are. For example, going back to the technology acceptance model, I do a lot of AI research, and I do have this sort of underlying assumption that just because the technology does something really well doesn't mean that students or faculty will trust it. So I have this lens of trust that I'm looking at, and that's an underlying assumption that I have. And I need to find a theory to help me explain that. So I could have a theory, and then I could also have the technology acceptance model. I could have both. Sometimes when I talk to students and they have 3 or 4 frameworks, it's just not necessary, that it just adds complexity. So I really challenge you to start with one framework that really explains the relationships between the concepts or the variables in your study. And when you begin writing about your framework, you want to start by telling the reader, usually initially your chair or your supervisor, like what are the specific concepts? What are their definitions? How do they relate and apply to my research? You have to make that connection yourself. And then what relationships are you exploring, or what phenomena are you exploring? What is unique to your context or your study population? And so you have to really make those connections for the reader, because different theoretical frameworks, they're applied in various types of research situations. Sometimes they're used through the lens of policy or organizational change, and they might not be perfectly appropriate to take how it was originally applied. You could be creative and unique in how you want to apply it to your study, but you have to be prepared to justify those decisions. And that's really where you start to develop your voice as a scholar. And so in the blog post that I wrote, I talk about how you can articulate your assumptions and hypotheses, explain your choice of theory, and then how you go along revising and refining that framework over time as you discover more literature and as your thinking evolves and as you develop some expertise. Ultimately, if you are developing a visual model or conceptual map, there needs to be clearly delineated relationships between each variable, and that's where you lean on the theoretical framework to explain those relationships. You need to make sure that your conceptual definitions are perfectly aligned with the concepts in your study. Something I get asked all the time is, well, what if there's like 6 or 7 constructs within the theoretical framework, but all of those are not applicable to my study? That's perfectly fine. You just explain that to the reader. Especially if you're a student, you don't yet have credibility. So you want to first demonstrate to your committee that you recognize that, say, there's 6 constructs, but then that you've intentionally only selected maybe 4 of them, and then you explain why. So you really need to justify those decisions, because again, as a student, you don't have credibility yet, and how you write about your theoretical framework and its application to your research is how you start to establish that credibility. I hope you find this blog post helpful. I have lots of helpful hyperlinks in there that I think you might find useful. And then I'm also going to link at the bottom of this YouTube video to an article that I really like that really differentiates the theoretical and conceptual framework, and it uses the metaphor of a blueprint for a house. Thanks.